all.
Okay. Hello, hello, hello. I'm going to not sing today. I've been told I should never do that again on anything. But thank you for joining us today. I'm going to let a few more people come in. So as they're coming in, we're just going to make sure you're at the right place. This is the Wholesale webinar series put on as a partnership between the America's main SBDC and New England Made, which is a trade show that is coming up in Portland in less or more, just over a month. I want to say less than a month, but it's not. So it's right there. New England Made Show is March 15th through the 17th in Portland. We have already done 3 of the series. Is wholesale right for you? How to prepare your business for wholesale and how to price for wholesale. If you missed those, you can go to YouTube. Main SBDC has their own channel, and you can pull those up. All these webinars will be put onto YouTube, so you can see them later. Today we have a very exciting one right from the show sponsors, from the woman herself, Stefa. She's going to talk to us about how to design a booth for a wholesale trade show. And it will be a little specific to this particular trade show. So hopefully it was going to answer some of the questions. Now, my name is Peter Harriman. I'm with the Maine Small Business Development Center. If you haven't heard of us, we're an organization that there's one in every state for the small business development centers. We're taxpayer funded, so it's a free cost for you to come in if you've already paid taxes. It's a prepaid service, and you can get to us through just Google searching, getting to our website, requesting advising. We deal with people starting businesses. We deal with people already in business, a whole mix of people. So during this, I will be on to be able to answer any chats. This is being recorded as well. And pretty soon here, I'll put something in the chat. So if you're new to Zoom, you can see that there'll be a little blinking thing in the bottom. That's where you can enter questions into. If you have a very specific question that's specific to your business, then please feel free to email me directly. My email is right here, or you can put it in chat privately to me, or you can put it in chat if you don't know if it's too specific, and we can kind of filter that out as well. But with that being said, I think I got all the housekeeping done, but Stefa, please let me know if there's other things you would like to mention, and I'm gonna stop share for you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Peter. And I'm super excited to be presenting this. There's lots of good stuff, so we'll be jumping right into it. So let me share my screen. And but I just want to say thank you to everybody on the on here. You're going to learn some great stuff, and let's get to it. So let me share my screen and get that going. So here we are. So for anybody here, in case you want to just confirm, we are here to know how to design a booth. And I am the show producer. I'm Stefa of New England Made Shows. I'm a family business owner. I am a small business champion, and I lead a awesome team. Oh, I think somebody might not be muted. But also, I am a huge fan of the SBDC. They are a terrific resource. They are free. If you haven't gone, if you think you don't need to go, go anyway. They'll help grow your business, and I can't say enough good things about the team over there. So they do awesome work and help many businesses get to the next step. So what we'll cover today is we're going to make sure you know what will make the difference between a successful and a not so successful show. I'm super excited to share this because this is one of the things that really will make a difference for you if you're attending the show. It may make or break your event depending on how you present. So super glad to be able to share this. There's we'll go through the objectives before starting with some things that you might want to consider. We'll go over what the difference is between retail and wholesale. We'll go through the key elements, the design process, and then we'll have time, hopefully at the end, to have some Q&A. As well as me, there's Whitney Birdsell on the phone on the Zoom call, and she's our logistics producer. Fantastic great source of info. You've probably gotten emails from her or Isabel, also on our team, and we're all committed to making sure that we present the best event that we can and support you in however we can. So I'm lucky enough to have a great team. So what do we want to get out of this session? We want to make sure that you understand why booth design is such a critical component. We'll go over the key elements. And then I think the most helpful part is we'll go over some real life examples for you. Why do we want to do all this? Because this is where you really make the return on your investment. It's not cheap to do a trade show. You've got with the booth cost, you've got setup costs, you've got T&E. So this is how you make the return on your investment. And you've only got about 5 to 7 seconds as a buyer walks by for them to stop and engage in your booth. And the benefit is you can make some really wonderful long-time, lifelong relationships if you do it right. So before you even start to think about your booth design, you really need to know your story. Like, what is your story about your product and your business? You really want to have that polished and sharp. You want to understand who your buyer is. Is it a boutique? Is it a hardware store? Is it a grocery store? Who is your buyer? Are they young, old? You want to know that profile so that you can see them, you can recognize them when they're at the show. And then really know your product. Is there customization you can do? What are your break-even points? What are your shipping terms? All of those things. You want to make sure inside out you've got a good handle on how you present your product, as well as the details that buyers might be interested in. Some people think that wholesale is just sort of an add-on to a retail, but it's really a whole different business that you build when you build a wholesale line. And I'm going to walk through a few of the differences on there, just so it's a huge difference in mindset shift. So for example, a retail show, if somebody's going to a retail show, they've got 20 bucks in their pocket, it's more entertainment. They're going to pick up something. They know they're going there. But it's more of an entertainment type experience for them. In a wholesale show, it's a quieter show. And this is work for the attendees that are coming. They're trying to figure out what will sell in their shop. And so they're focused. They are trying to figure it out, and it's sort of not a day out of the office for them. They have to figure out what the buyers will want to buy, what's new, what's interesting, what fits in their price point. So it's not that entertainment, we're going to go hang out and just check out neat, cool stuff. In a retail show, you're talking typically about a single sale, whereas in wholesale, you're looking for those repeat orders, that ongoing relationship. And that gets to the next point. In a retail show, you're one and done. You may never see that person again. They may, they've got your stuff. They may never buy from you again. But in a wholesale shop, it's really about a partnership. So you're looking at how you partner with this buyer to help them succeed, and which in turn helps you succeed. From a display standpoint, retail shows are typically counter. It's that sort of table in front of a booth space. Whereas in wholesale, you're talking about a boutique booth. You're really showcasing how will your product be merchandised, giving them ideas on how it will sell most effectively. So there's lots of other differences, but those are some of the key. And the biggest part, it's really a difference in mindset shift. So keep that in mind as you go. So to that end, there's a number of key elements that we'll go through as far as you need for a well-designed booth. And you can see them there: display, lighting, furniture, marketing materials, all of that are elements that will contribute to your success. So if you're coming to the New England Made Show, this is what you get. These are curtains. This is your space. It looks kind of lonely there with sort of that chair and bare walls, but that's how you start. And depending on your booth size, could be a 10 by 10, could be an 8 by 10 or whatever. Just know that as you're figuring out your booth, it's not going to be an exact, precise measurement, because It may be off by a few inches on either side. So say you're buying a 10 by 10 carpet to put down, you may have to roll it up in the back because as you can see the bases there, those cut in a little bit. And also the guys that are laying 300 booths down, they're not sitting down with a tape measure. They're popping them down. So just be aware that you may be a few inches off either way and be prepared for that. If you're doing something that sort of is that hard wall, stiff 10 by 10, know that you're going to have to shrink that in by a few inches. Oh, and curtains. As far as those curtains, think of those as really sort of shower curtain weight. The pipe and drape that you see that holds that drape is not weight bearing. So what will make you the least popular person in your row is if you hang something on that and it takes the row down. And we've seen that before, and it's really a bummer because stuff can get damaged or whatever. So just know that you can't lean any of your display on the booth, and you can't really hang anything that is more than 2 or 3 pounds on that. You can use S hooks or zip ties or whatever, but know that it's not weight bearing. If you have a corner booth, this is what your corner booth looks like. For those that get power, you may have seen this at other shows, but this is what's called a quad box. It's typically laid along the back of your booth, and you get 2 outlets, and the person behind you in the row that's back to back with you gets the other 2. So you'll want to bring along a extension cord or something so that you can get power to where you need it in your booth, because you won't be able to drag that because the other person in the other row will have the same access. Let's get to the product display. This is where it gets good and interesting. This is a beautifully done booth, and some of the elements on it are that you can see that the lines are really clear. You can see pillows distinguished, you can see tea towels. There's a lot of touch opportunities. Typically, if you have a touch experience, people are about 4 times more likely to buy your product. So you want that experience of touching that beautiful tea towel and easy access in. So there's a lot of great components to this booth, but one of the elements in this is it's particularly well organized for your specific lines. Similar to this, you can see on the left-hand side, these are the ones with this, the pottery with this particular coloring. On the right-hand side, you see some other particular lines. They've done a nice job with flooring. Typically, the flooring at the show is turf. So many people you can certainly use the turf. There's also in the front of the building, I think now it is a basketball court. So you'll want to consider flooring because that's also a key element of this, but some nice features, easy to access, easy to understand, and you can see how beautifully some of this is merchandised, whether it's with the plants, showing how you'd use it. On this one, another gorgeous design. You can see a great use of using all the walls, which you bought this real estate. You want to make sure that you make good on all sides to get the most out of your investment. You can see that all the product is at eye level, and there's nothing really below the belt. If you put things below sort of that bottom area, that subconsciously implies that it is remnant or sort of the low cost. It's really that bottom shelf. So in a successful booth, you'll see very little along that bottom side because you want to keep presenting the value of your product, so you keep it up high. As people walk the show, they get tired, so you want things, they get tired of leaning over. You want things to be eye level, and in here, easy to see the product, and it displays it really beautifully. When you're designing your booth, you want to consider about storage options. Where do you keep your snacks, your extra paper, your water bottle? If you can work that into your design, you'll see some additional ways of handling it, but here's one that gives you a little storage option. You can see in this particular one, you've got a table tucked, beautiful walls. This is not lit as you see it, but beautifully done. Easy access for buyers to come in, see the product. You've got everything from the spinner, which would indicate what they'd see at their, in their own shop, as well as seeing a full line. Here's another one, a specialty food. It may seem humble or whatever, but great display. You know exactly what you're getting. There's a sampling opportunity. You can walk in and you know what you're getting there instantly. Here's another one. You can see the flooring has been done well. Along the side, you've got small products, which can be a little tricky sometimes to showcase. If I had to say an update on this that I'd encourage is you can see that there's actually nothing on those bottom, which is good that there's not product down there, but you might want to zhuzh it up a little bit. It feels a little Spartan there. So, but good use of shelving and that piece. This, as you can see, it's important for people to be at eye level to be able to see your product because it is fatiguing for them. So you want to make it as convenient as possible so that they, they're not having to really work at your booth to see your product. Here's another beautiful one. There's a few elements in here that I'd like to point out. You can see on the far left-hand side, there's this nice branding over here about the story of, Casey Circle and Ryan's work. Really easy to understand what sort of vibe he's throwing. Coastal, all over the place. The color palette's really clean. You can go in and see his product line really easily. And I think he created this all in using a PVC grid, which anyway, Ryan did a brilliant job. So really well done on this one. One piece that new exhibitors tend to forget is just how critical lighting is to your booth. And there's an illustration here of what it looks like with lighting and without. And you can see just what a dramatic difference that is. Your lighting can point to what's important in your booth. It guides that buyer experience. And I can't tell you how much of a difference. If you walk down an aisle, and this is why we make it mandatory, if you walk down an aisle and somebody's lights aren't on, it looks like their shop is closed, whether it's subconscious, whether it's something that you actually realize, but lighting makes all the difference. So keep that in mind. Typically people are using track lighting because you can adjust the angle of the lighting. In here in this booth, you can see that there are 4 what they call heads at the top, and you can direct those at your best-selling product where you want that buyer attention to go. So there's a bar that goes across and the heads are pointed to whatever product you want to profile, but it makes a huge, huge difference. This is the crossbar that if you can purchase that will allow you to put the lighting on top. And you can see, even if you have a corner booth, you can use one of those crossbars to attach lighting so that it is facing forward. What you don't want to do is have your lighting coming from the other direction and glare into your buyer's eyes. So you want to be careful how that's aimed because you don't want to be burning their eyes out. And this is the way you handle it in a corner booth. Your branding is critical. What you want to make sure is that it's super clear what you're selling instantly. Sometimes people can trip up by making their display really engaging, but it becomes difficult to tell what's actually being sold. Like you don't know if the merchandising is part of what's being sold. So here's a great example of, exactly, you're getting candles, they're telling their story, and you can quickly see what the product is. It's at a good level. It shows clearly what the scents are and the packaging as well. So if in doubt, go for clear, not cute, in whether it's signage or display. As far as branding goes, you can see another great illustration. There's some nice touches in this one. You can see she's got her prices listed, on little chalkboards around. She's tucked away her workspace behind her. It's good, clean lighting, branding. So she's got some nice touches on this one. This one also good lifestyle photos to show what kind of customer this type of line attracts. The one suggestion I might make on this one is, as I mentioned before, her tables are low. So somebody's really going to have to bend down to see some of that product that's in this corner here. So just be careful of that. Again, you want to make sure that somebody is not having to work
Can't go on Friday where? Out to work out.
As I mentioned, this is a terrific booth. It definitely gives the vibe, but the backdrop, and I think she was using shower curtains on this. It was really fun, but it's competing with the product a little bit. You're not actually sure where the product ends and where the display, begins. So just be careful of that line. It's great, great creativity here, but it doesn't quite let her product shine in a way that I think might help. But super creative. On this one, great shots, gorgeous, gorgeous chocolates. But what on this particular one, you see this whole wall on the right-hand side that's blank. That's real estate you've paid for. So I always encourage use all the sides, because people coming from one direction or another will be looking at a blank wall. They're not going to be direct full on, and they can walk right by and miss you. They'll look at the other side of the aisle. So make sure you use all the real estate that you have. Lifestyle photos are great, just so people know what they're buying. So don't be afraid to use all the real estate that's there. And also, people will be looking for your booth number. There's lots of creative ways to create signage around it. But many times people will cover, we provide an ID sign that has your booth number, but they put together their display and they don't have a booth number. So before the show, or when people are mapping out which booths they want to go to, they can miss yours if your booth number isn't ID'd. So so make sure in your booth design you include a slot so that you can include your booth number. Furniture is another key component. You've got to remember that you've got to haul this stuff in, so you've got to consider how it's all going to fit together, the weight of it, how you're going to store and stock things. There's a few nice details on this part, this particular piece. It's got a great display of the product on here. There's a nice table to the left that doesn't block anybody's entrance. You can see they put it on rollers so that it's a little easier to move, and they put hooks on there to add other things that they might want to add in. You can also see in this back corner, there's a curtain, and they've made a little bump out with a door so they can keep all their housekeeping pieces, keeps the look uncluttered. And it's a nice, clever way of making a little workspace without sacrificing the look of your booth. One piece that I would point out is that they've got one of their most stunning pieces on the floor. And so it kind of looks like that remnant piece. So this is a piece that should go way up high to be the showcase piece. So just a point of make sure your most beautiful pieces are in a prominent position. Don't pop them on the floor where people don't either see them or think that they're a second or not, not part of your line. Make sure you don't block the entrance. These are beautiful handbags, but as far as a buyer coming in to feel, touch, look at those, that table at the front really just keeps everybody out of your booth, which is the last thing you want to do. So that's something that can really affect your sales. So you need about 4 feet for somebody to comfortably walk in. So measure that out and make sure that you're not blocking. Also, your chair needs to be at eye level. I'll have a shot later that will illustrate that a little bit better. And make sure you've got a little place to sort of have your paperwork there. Here's a little table, easy, doesn't really block things. You can get in and out. So simple, but does the job. And these are the tables just to illustrate skirted tables. You can either get a black skirt, a white skirt, or whatever if you're using tables that that you order from the show. Here you can see the tables have been boosted up with risers. People sometimes use PVC pipes or little stands or whatever to get that eye level. In this particular booth, you can see that her basically she's done a panel in the front that allows her to have that back area where she can keep her workspace, and it gives her a little place to hide away whatever she doesn't want to be shown. The level is great. People can walk in and comfortably see her product, and she's got some great great photography of the individual products, which make it an easy sell. This is one where the booth is gorgeous. She put a ton of work into it. She's got a beautiful product line. But when you come into the booth, you are head on, and she's seated. So anybody coming in is going to feel like, that person has to get up, or you're interrupting, or this is like coming up to the courthouse or whatever table. I'll show you an example between the next one. You can see it's a welcoming entrance. You can get right in, where if you go back to this one, you come in and you have to engage directly with her. You want people to be able to come in and see your product line and not feel like if they come in, they'll be trapped, or they may love your product, but it's not the right fit for their store. So you want to make sure that they don't stay away because they're afraid of hurting your feelings, or something along that line. So just be careful of where you position your table so that it's still comfortable for people to come in and check out your stuff. And make sure you've got plenty of sell sheets, and you've got a stapler to attach orders to, or just product. Sometimes people forget the stapler. That is a help on there. And this, again, a beautiful display of these pillows. Easy walk in. Her chair is at a height that when people walk in, they don't feel like they're leaning down towards you. It's sort of that eye level. So lots of really nice things happening in this booth. You can also see on the far right, there's pockets for sales materials. So somebody easily can walk by, pick it up. If you're busy with somebody else, they can still get the material that helps them make their decisions. As far as tech goes, make sure that you bring an extra thumb drive with you to the show. There may be Wi-Fi that when you first come in is great, but after 500 people are on the floor, the Wi-Fi gets pinched. It's open Wi-Fi there. So make sure you've got a backup as far as your laptop or a hotspot so that you continue to have access to your materials. And just consider if you'll need power and how you'll get to that power. Again, that extension cord that gets you from the back. So those are just some key tips on tech. Extra provisions. Plan on being self-sufficient, whether it's a step stool, a ladder. Now's a great time to put that kit together when you have enough time to think through it, whether it's scissors, extension cord, staplers, aspirin, box cutters, zip ties, and some snacks, because sometimes things get busy and everybody gets hangry. So build yourself. We have what we call MacGyver kits, where we have a bin of everything from birthday candles to to duct tape and an Advil for whatever we need. So get yourself a fishing tackle box, throw in all that stuff, and just keep it with your booth, and that'll make things a lot less stressful. Some people also, depending on what your product line, we've never really had an issue with theft or anything like that. But if you want to cover things up, you can bring a blanket. Sometimes people just cover the front of their booth. They clip, put clips on. But if that's something that's important to you, that's another piece you may want to incorporate. So what's that design process look like? I would recommend first that you start earlier than you think. If you're attending the show, now should be when you're thinking about what your booth will look like. Figure out what budget you are ready to allocate to this. You can get really creative. It doesn't have to be expensive to be impactful. So, don't let budget stop you from creating a great booth. Picture yourself within the booth where you'll stand, where buyers will stand. Where will you write orders? How will you write orders? Where will you store things? So start processing some of those pieces. As you do that, you can create Pinterest boards. You can, sort of do that mind dump of different elements that might work in your booth, and then start to sketch those things out. And don't forget to scale down a little bit, knowing that an 8x10 or a 10x10 might come in a few inches. The biggest bummer is if you've got a super hard wall display and you're short a couple inches and everybody else is already set up and you can't get your stuff in. So make sure it's a little flexible on that end. Know how big the trunk of your car is, how much weight, will you need a hand truck? Will you, how are you going to pack this in your car, and what kind of car space do you need? We recommend that people just sort of mark out a space in a living room or a garage, and put tape down on the floor, figure out what your square footage is, and just start to put that together. Figure out how you're going to set it up, how you're going to break it down, because when you get to the show, it just seems a lot. It seems a lot harder, and take pictures of it, because when you get there, it's like, oh, did I have this here or there? Keep that picture as a reference so that you remember how all the elements come together. And then just put yourself in the mindset of a buyer. Like, what will make them stop? How will they know what your best product is, what the most important piece in your booth is? So what will get them to stop in that 5 to 7 seconds? What will be compelling? So once you think you've got it, give it a few days and then step back and see, can I make it better? What can I sharpen? Get some feedback. Do you have enough touch opportunities? Do you have, a good branding so people know the name of your company and know exactly what you're selling, and what your product line is? And then, as I mentioned, practice building it up, taking it down, seeing if you can make some efficiencies in how you pack, or what products you need, or what tools you might need, so that you've got that all to just make it super easy on yourself. Again, take pictures, and then, just sort of step back, get a beverage, and enjoy kind of what you've done and what you've created, and know that every show you'll probably make changes. You'll get inspiration that you see on the floor. So it's always going to be a work in progress. So don't feel like, oh my God, I've got to have the booth. You're going to have a great booth when you come in, and you're going to make it even better every time you come to a new show. And you'll see lots of ideas on the floor as you come to the show. We always recommend, like, come an hour early. We provide like coffee and muffins and that sort of thing. So come early and just walk around and see, like, okay, who's doing shelving really well? Who's got their lighting down? What products are they using? We're not encouraging, like, don't steal, but just get inspired. Like, okay, how'd they solve this? Or, how'd they handle that? So don't be afraid to sort of lock in and understand that you'll change your booth as each show goes, and you get feedback and things change. So in conclusion, just keep that buyer's mindset in mind. How can you serve your buyer and support their efforts so that they are making good buying decisions for their shop? They're looking to you as an advisor. You are the one that will be able to tell them, like, what sells best, what bundle, what's your intro package, all of those things. So they're looking to you for recommendations because you know your product in a way that they don't. Make sure, particularly in this day and age, you've really got to have great visuals of your product that cues people in on who their buyer will be, what demographic, what the product is, the story behind that. So pay attention to how you're visually presenting your brand. Make sure you grab a notebook to keep notes. After the show, your mind evaporates and you won't remember most of the things that happened at the show. And you want to keep notes on what you see that you want to improve, or what worked really well, or what you wish for next time. So, throw an extra notebook in, and as you go through the show, just keep adding to that notebook. But Remember, you know, the booth is critical, but your attitude within the booth is even more important. The vibe that you throw off will either attract buyers or they'll sort of think, you know what, the juju in that booth is a little harsh or it's a little whatever. You know, and people will pick up on that energy. So, you know, just enjoy the process, enjoy it as a learning opportunity. And, you know, everybody's there to build their business and, you know, just have fun with it. So questions, any questions? I'm going to stop sharing and we've got a couple minutes to answer questions and we're good.
So Steph, I just was going to add a couple things to what you said. Just some biggest mistakes that people make. You mentioned it before, but the blocking of your booth, you want to keep your booth as open as possible so people can come in. If they feel like they can't come in, or if they're going to come in and get trapped, they move along, like even subconsciously, even if they're interested, they just kind of move along because they don't want to be in the way. So, and going along with that, not blocking your booth from people coming in is to not stare them down. That's another way that people sort of feel like they're going to go in there and get trapped. So there was this person who used to talk about booth design and booth behavior, and we won't get too far into this, but one of his things was always look busy doing nothing. So even if, you know, you don't want to look so busy that someone doesn't want to interrupt you, but you don't want to stand in the corner and just sort of look like a sad puppy staring at everybody that walks by, because it'll be uncomfortable and they won't feel like they want to come in. The other thing, somebody mentioned in the chat, a lot of, you know, we of course block out the names of the companies that we're showing you pictures of. You may have noticed a lot of people had kind of a white rectangular sign in the back. Those are the booth ID signs that we provide for you that really are just meant to identify your booth for you when you're loading in. It has your company name and it has your booth number. You're welcome to leave that up. I would say, you know, most people take them down. Some people may leave it up to function as their company sign, but I wouldn't rely on that alone. And we very much recommend having your company name and, as Stefa said, your booth number very visible and easy for people to see. And also remember that people are coming from both directions. So if you put your booth number, you know, kind of on, you have to stay within your booth, but if you put it on the outer edge of your booth, you'll want to put it on both sides so people coming from either way can see your booth number. And remember, there's over 300 booths on the floor. So not having your booth number out there is maddening for people who are trying to find you. And they're going to see your number before they're going to see your company name or even your product. So please don't forget to put your booth number up. Stefa also mentioned lighting, the fact that it is required at our shows. You can order it through us, or you can bring your own. You know, it really should be LED lighting at this point. If you do LED lighting, chances are you don't need to order any extra power. But, you know, consider what you're bringing. And if you need to, you know, order extra power, we offer that as well. And when we say booth lighting, we're not talking about decorative, cute Christmas lights or lamps over in the corner. We're talking about lighting that is specifically lighting your product. If you recall from that chocolate company picture she sent you, like they were totally in the dark, their signage was in the dark. It really makes a huge difference. We also don't really recommend clip lighting because it just is super amateur. And it makes you look amateur unless it really kind of goes with the aesthetic of your product and the aesthetic of your booth, in which case go for it. But you know, to really look professional and look like you know what you're doing, you want proper booth lighting of your product. Super important. Another thing, if you're doing our show and you're in the smaller room, when you're looking at the floor plan, there's the two rooms just flow into each other, but there's sort of a smaller room and then the bigger field. The smaller room actually has a basketball court floor now. So if you've been in that room in the past, it used to be AstroTurf. They've redone it and now it's a hardwood floor. If you're in the big building, it's still an AstroTurf flooring. So make sure you know that. And And then I also just wanted to call out that if you are a current exhibitor for this year's show, Stefa and I are also doing a webinar just for current exhibitors that's next week on February 11th at noon. So that we can answer very specific NEM questions about number of buyers and all that kind of stuff for those of you that are signed up for the upcoming spring show. So that's next Tuesday, the 11th at noon. Feel free to hit me up if you need that info. So while I was babbling, Steph, did you have a chance to look at some of those questions?
You know, I just saw one and I'm sharing the, somebody had asked about seeing a picture of the crossbar, I think, and showing an example of the lighting. So I think that's the example. And you can see here, you know, the heads on each are spotlighting, you know, different aspects. On the left, it's spotlighting that case, that shelving on, as well as in the front going right down so that you are, you know, dramatic on the front of the candle display.
I'm looking at a question from Lolly here that says, are there particular sign hanging devices you recommend to hang the business sign out into the aisle up high? So my first red flag on that is it can't be out into the aisle. Stefa did show you a picture that was showing a really cool booth ID, like whatever kind of street sign that went out into the aisle. As cool as that was, they did get in trouble for that. It has to be within.
I'll swap that out.
Yeah. They just needed to move it inside their booth. So, you know, great idea, but you have to stay within the parameters of your booth. So, and that includes the 8-foot height. A lot of people that are coming from retail over to a wholesale show for the first time want to use, you might have a pop-up tent sort of setup that you're used to doing that, but the pop-up tents are not permitted at the show because they go above that 8-foot limit. And if you shrink it down so it doesn't go above that 8-foot limit, then everybody has to duck to get into your booth. So got to come up with something different there. You've got to stay within the dimensions of your booth, and that's depth and height.
And I just want to piggyback on that, Whitney, because there was an exhibitor recently that did have, even though they had their booth in a fantastic product line, they had used a pop-up tent sort of, and it just screamed craft fair. And so I know they would have made more sales if they had just sort of stuck to the booth and not done the pop-up tent.
Lolly also asked, is there a bar across the front of inline booths for us to attach lights onto? No, there is not, but you can order one. So what you'd be ordering in our store is called a crossbar. And from that, you can zip tie your track lighting or whatever you're doing to that bar. If you're ordering our lighting, that bar is included. So we put up the bar, we attach the track, it comes with 4 heads. We install it, we take it down for you. It doesn't eat into any of your power allotment, which is 5 amps. So, and then if you're a corner booth and you're ordering lighting, what we assume to do very often, if you're ordering lighting from us, is we put a crossbar from one corner of your booth diagonally to the other corner. I won't, more people don't have corner booths, but if you have a corner booth, okay, perfect. Thank you, Steph. So in this picture, the other thing is if you have a corner booth, outside of this crossbar at the top, these are the only walls and pipe we give you. So if you need a pipe, an upright pipe on the outer corner, like basically a full pipe structure, you need to let us know that. If you have a corner booth and you have questions, just email me and I'll help you out. B. Jones also asked about allowed to put booth numbers or signage outside in the aisle. Nope, you're not. Yes, this webinar will be available online to view after today. We got to do some editing, but then the SBDC will share that. Catherine's asking, where can we see pricing and options for lighting and tables? That's in our online store. So you go to the exhibitor dashboard. So go to anymadeshows.com, go to the exhibitor dashboard. And then you'll see a button for special orders, and that takes you to the store for renting tables and lighting and all that good stuff. Beth asked if we rent display shelving and walls to exhibitors. We don't. We offer tables that you can order, like, you know, table height, which is 30-inch, or you can order counter height, which is 40 inches high. You can order those through us. We don't rent shelving and walls. And there was another question from somebody that asked, how do people do hard wall? And there's so many ways they do it. There's no one specific way, but more often than not, it's a panel structure that they're doing so that they can break that down and load it into their truck or their car. So Stefa mentioned one that was using kind of a PVC pipe structure behind it.
Hinges, you'll see hinges or sort of pegs
Yep.
that will go across, or little crossbar type pieces. Those are,
Most important thing though is your hard walls need to be self-supported. So you can't lean those on the pipe or the drape at all, because you'll knock it down and you'll take down the whole row. So your walls need to be able to stand on their own. And you know, whatever you do, I recommend you try to go as lightweight as possible. There's a cool product out there. Stefa, you probably they can't buy it. It needs to be wholesale of Texture Plus.
no,
Yeah.
they could go online. They
Okay.
could go online, yeah.
So there's a product called Texture Plus, which, and there's probably a lot of similar products out there, but basically what they are like these wall finishes that are made of this really lightweight material that are insanely realistic. So restaurants like Olive Garden and stuff like that will use this, you know, and you think their building might have, you know, all this cobblestone on the outside, but it's all this fake styrofoam that's whatever. I don't know how expensive it is, but, you know, a big part of it is being creative, but you want your walls to try to be as lightweight as possible, because you're lugging these in and out and putting them up, and you're, you know, hopefully you're reusing them for multiple shows. So one of the things I always recommend people do is, if you can find a space, you know, in your office, your garage, your house, your basement, somewhere, to basically build your booth, and do that now, so you can start experimenting with what works, what doesn't work, what tools you're going to need to make sure you have on site to be able to put it together. It's a really great way to kind of experiment so that nothing's a surprise to you. There was somebody else who was saying in the chat that they're going to be all on their own. And so it's really overwhelming to think about how to design this and set it all up on your own. This is another way to figure that out. Like, design your booth now, because what you're getting at this show is really like the pipe and drape is really almost like us drawing chalk on the ground. Here are your parameters. You know, those really aren't your walls. So, you know, if you can build your booth out and sort of figure out where things are going to go, you know, where you're going to put certain product, and you can play with it and you can refine it as you get closer to the show.
We do provide the pipe and drape.
Michelle, did we direct your question? I don't know what it was. There's a comment here about, or a question here about best introduction offers, and in terms of taking orders. I'm gonna pass that one over to Peter, because that really goes kind of into sales. But we do recommend having, I will just say before Peter, you get into it, we do recommend having some kind of special offer. We do advertise those to the buyers. We also have a big board for you to put them up, like literally write it out and put it on a big board that they can look at. And buyers who go to shows are looking for show specials. That's a big reason to go to a show versus just contact you online. So there's no reason not to have one, and it can be everything from a percentage to a baker's dozen. But Peter, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, and most often what I see is you as the exhibitor are identifying what is the best sellers as well. You know, here's all my products, but these are the best sellers, right? So you can easily kind of point them towards what they might be looking for, and help them kind of narrow down the choices, because sometimes they're just there to make a decision. This is a great question that I also want you to hear the answer from our other NEM webinar that's going to be coming up. So it's a great segue to kind of promote that. We have NEM webinar. When is that? Is that 2 weeks or?
24th. Yeah, I think it's the 24th, Peter, like from 2 to 3.
Yep. The 24th from 2 to 3, we're going to have a panel discussion with veteran people who've gone to the NEM show, and I'll make sure that I write this question out and ask them, so you get it from them, because they're the ones that have actually been doing it. And then that's a great discussion that you can have on how to prepare, and that's the whole point of these series, because I saw there was a comment in there that it was pretty overwhelming. That's the whole point of the series, is to make sure that you're prepared to go in, so that you're not going in and saying, oh, I totally misjudged what was involved here. So we're trying to help you with your pricing. There's one of the webinars goes through the product materials that you're going to want to bring with you, and some strategies there. This is going through the booth design. We're going to have experts telling you kind of what they wish they knew before they started. And all of these are being recorded and put on YouTube. So if you can't make it, you can either find it on our YouTube channel, or if you sign up for it, we will send the specific YouTube recording to you after we do that. So I know I kind of skirted around a little bit of that answer, but I know our time is actually getting limited. We have about 8 minutes left, and I see there's a whole bunch more questions are popping in.
Thanks, Peter. Peter, if you could go ahead and just put your email in the chat. It is in his, if you look at his picture, you can see it, but highly recommend you reach out to those guys for questions on it all. Couple other things I'm seeing here. Are we allowed to play music? You can, on a very soft level. And I'll say that with the caveat that if your neighbors, if it's bothering them and they may not feel comfortable telling you, they may tell us. But basically, if the music is bugging anybody around you, then it's got to go off. And we also do play kind of background music for the whole show. So it's not like it's like silent and weird, but basically you can't bug your neighbors. So if you have any scents that are overwhelming, it's one thing if you're candle or personal care, like, obviously your products are smelly in a great way. But you can't be spraying extra like perfume or scent or anything that could bother the buyers or your neighbors. Same goes with music, sound machines, like bird chirping and that sort of thing. If it's bugging people, then it has to stop. I think there's also some question about what can hang from the pipe. I'm seeing Danielle's asking, can a full wall cloth banner hang from the back wall? Somebody else was asking about curtains, mesh curtains. You keep in mind that pipe goes through the curtain like entirely, like the pipe goes into a sleeve. And so you're no longer able to tie anything around the pipe. In addition, that curtain you're sharing with your neighbor. So the curtain doesn't come down. You can't take that down and replace it with your own thing. Like that is a boundary between you and your neighbor. What you can do to hang things from the pipe are use what's called S-hooks. You can just get them, at Home Depot or whatever. Steph is going to totally van a white one right now for you. You can, so that's an S-hook. If you flip it upside down, Steph. Yeah, so that top part goes over the pipe, and then you hang whatever you're hanging from that bottom part. We sell these, they're specific to the pipe and drape that we have. But if you're buying your own, I want to say the pipe diameter is like 2.5 inches or 2 3/4 inches, something like that. So that's really what you would use to be able to hang things from the pipe on your side. That said, if what you're hanging kind of kicks into your neighbor's booth, you've got to fix that. It can't kick into your neighbor's booth at all. And also those pipes are not meant to be weight bearing in a significant way. So you can hang signage, you can hang banners, you can hang curtains that way. But you would not want to hang like panels of hardwall or, suspend like a hammock or something really heavy from them. It's got to be pretty lightweight.
And I just add to that, as far as in the hanging, if it's a vinyl sign sort of, or a fabric sign, that works, but anything that is more than like 2 or 3 pounds is going to be too much weight for those. All right, what else we got? I know we're getting close. So, but
Sorry, Steph.
no, go right ahead.
I've promised a couple of people a slideshow of booths, especially some specialty food people. So that is also in the exhibitor dashboard. And when Isabel's back in tomorrow, she can send that all out to everybody who's currently exhibiting. If you're not currently exhibiting and you would like to see that, then just shoot me an email, whitney@anymadeshows.com.
All right. All right, we've got about 2 minutes left. So I think, you know, what I'd like to just close on is, first of all, to thank the SBDC for being such great partners and really helping build businesses and being such a partner. So thank you, Peter, to you and the whole team. They're awesome, and I couldn't encourage you more. Even if you don't think you need it, like, go make a call with the SBDC peeps. They'll help you in a way that you may not even be thinking of now. And then I know it can seem overwhelming, but just give yourself a little grace. Let yourself just start, you know, and have fun with it. Like, I'm going to make something cool, and I've got a great product that I'm going to showcase. And it may not be perfect my first time out, but I'm going to learn. So just don't be don't be hard on yourself. Figure out, you know, how you can sell well, and, you know, and spotlight your product. But, you know, we're all a work in progress, and, you know, you'll come out with, you know, your energy will reflect just as much as your booth does. So, you know, if your attitude is, you know, excited about your product, then buyers are going to get excited about your product. So just keep that in mind. And we're here to support you however we can. We want to make sure, if you're part of our shows, that you have a great experience. So just know everybody on our team is rooting for you, and hope you have a great show. So
before we jump off, I do want to, there are a couple people that were asking questions who are specialty food specific. And also anybody who wants to stay, we'll stay on for a couple of minutes past noon for anybody that has more questions that they want to ask. But real quick about the specialty food folks, the question that I think is most important, they asked if their booth design should be different in terms of letting people into the booth. No, I don't think it should. It's that same idea of if somebody can come into the booth, then you can have a conversation. And especially with food sampling, if you're not allowing people into the booth at all, and you're just kind of doing this table across the front, it's really easy for people to just snack through the aisles, whether they really have any intention of buying your product or not. And sometimes that's good, because they didn't think they needed chocolate for their store, and now they're like, I must have you in my store. But, you know, at all times, you know, with a wholesale show, it goes back to that whole mentality of these people are here to do business, not to be entertained. And so to do business, you need to have a conversation. And if they can't pull over to have a conversation with you, then, you know, it can affect, you know, whether that sale happens or not. So I would still find a way to let people come in, and don't stare them down. It's creepy.
And don't sit at the back of your booth sitting down on your phone.
So I think that wraps it up. We're, like I said, we're going to edit this down a little bit, and then the SBDC will distribute to all of you who signed up. But we'll hang out for a few more minutes if anybody has any other questions they want, but otherwise, thanks.
And I did check with the Federal Trade Commission, and hypothetically, every cell phone carrier should get service in that thing. But as has been noted by many people, when you get 200 people on the same carrier in a small space, it's gonna shorten the band. So don't necessarily rely on that alone.
And I think people get you know, come in before the show opens and test it out, and it's like, oh great, it's working. And then, you know, 2 hours later, it's like, not so much.
I assume the recording will be probably, let's give it a week on the long end. I hope it would be less than that, but and then as I said, we'll put it right on YouTube as well. So any friends or family that didn't get the joy of being here today, they can see it then. And I put a link to the YouTube channel that we have in the comments for anyone on here, and I put the link to sign up for the next webinar if you're interested in listening to the panel. That's gonna be coming up.
Danielle is asking, is it a good idea to have a counter height chair for buyers? I don't think counter height chairs are actually particularly comfortable. I think they're good for you because you stay, you get a chance to take a load off your feet and you stay at eye level. But if you're going to offer a space for a buyer to sit, I would do a normal size, a normal height chair and a table. But also be considerate for the fact that you don't want that chair to become like the parking place for somebody's husband who doesn't want to walk around anymore, so you just kind of need to be intentional about how you do that. Like, okay, we're going to write an order. Please have a seat at the table here, and you sit down with them and do that order versus just having a comfy chair out there for anybody to sit down in who's tired, kind of thing.
I've seen a question of orders, should it be pen and paper or should it be platform? Yes to both.
Yeah.
You can, because if you get pen and paper, sometimes you don't want to be like, oh, hold on, they're filling it out. Let me, so you want to have as many ways for people to order if you can as possible.
And you want to get their contact info, you've got to do the follow-up afterwards. That's huge. This is buying season for a lot of people, so they're attending multiple shows. And they may not place their orders at the show. They may be waiting to kind of look through all their sales materials. And you never know if they lost your catalog or, for whatever reason, you're not on their short list. If they get that phone call from you that tells them, one, it reminds them of your product. Two, it tells them that you're a good communicator, that you're responsive. So you need to do that follow-up afterwards. If you don't, it's a total wasted opportunity. But a lot of people will place their orders after the show, so you can't rely on them to necessarily find you. You've got to reach out. Michelle is asking how much product she should bring. That's really hard to tell, but I do want to clarify that this is an order writing show, not a cash and carry show. So what that means is that people aren't buying product and taking it with them after they write an order with you. They're placing orders for future delivery from you. So you theoretically, you really only need the product in your booth that you need to present a great display of your products. And, if you have kind of a small product or only a couple things, like you only sell one kind of dog biscuit in this bandana, you might have a lot of it to be able to present in a good way and not have your booth look like sparse and empty. The only time that we allow any kind of product to leave the show floor is during the last hour on the last day, with something we call cash and carry, which Stefa jokes is really more of like this crazy Turkish bazaar with everybody like running around and trading things and buying things, and totally up to you if you want to participate. It's not mandatory to participate. But at that point, that last hour on the last day, people can buy your product. Some buyers may come back to pick up their order at that point if you've got it, or pricing is up to you whether you sell it wholesale or retail at that point. We don't really police that. It's the last hour. What we do police, and we're very, very serious about, is that no product can leave the show floor during show hours. So I hope that kind of answered that question.
All right. Anything else? I think that covers it. So
For those first timers, and I'll mention this in the other NEM webinar, but I tell people, try to play the game of you're trying to ask questions that aren't yes, no answers.
Oh yeah.
You don't want people to say yes or no, and then that's it. They kind of shut off, like, oh, you having a good day? Yes. Then that's the end of the conversation. So try to think of questions that would make them talk. Like, what do you think is the best part of the show today, or that you've seen today? Something that gets them more than the yes, no.
That's great.
And there is a food, you guys want to explain the food court or how that goes? The cafe.
Yeah, we do bring in a caterer for the show days that runs an on-site cafe, fresh sandwiches, soups, they're really good. They were new last year and they're coming back and everybody was super happy with them. So that's during show hours. We also offer complimentary muffins and coffee in the morning each day. So you can get into the show starting at, I think it's 7 a.m. Show opens at 10 and we've got free coffee and muffins for you. But you should make your own plans for Friday of load in. There typically has been a restaurant attached to the sports complex, but I don't think it's open anymore. It may only be a bar at this point, if it even is open. So I would definitely, make sure you cover yourself for Friday. Then again, you can also always do like DoorDash or Grubhub or something like that, but those drivers get super confused coming over the sports complex. So just be mindful of that. Hillary, we do not offer booth coverage, but you will find that NEM has a really great neighborly, supportive community. So you're definitely not the only one that is there alone. And it's not uncommon at all to ask a neighbor if they can just cover you for a second. I believe the cafe will also be offering online ordering that you can order and then just go run and pick up, so you don't have to stand in line or anything like that.
All righty. I think we're good. And for any that are doing our show, we do have a webinar that goes over some, just great things to keep in mind. So there'll be an opportunity there if you've got more questions, or you can reach out via email. But thanks again to the awesome SBDC for doing these programs, and we're just excited to see people at the show. So it's coming. Yeah. All righty. Take care and good luck for everybody.
See you soon.